Welcome to AB Crafty. I'm Daniela, and today I'm going to show you how to make an air dry clay ghost perfect for spooky season. I ended up using an air dry clay kit, which I've linked to in the description, but you can use any air dry clay you'd like. I used the wire tool to cut about half of the block of clay and then wrapped the rest tightly back in the plastic and put it back in the bag, making sure to remove all of the air. Since the block is a bit big to use the rolling pin on it to start, I just used my hands to smush it out a little bit more flat. Then I used the rolling pin, trying my best to keep it in a circle. So every now and then I lifted it, flipped it, and turned it around to help make the circular shape. And since the rolling pin is a little bit small for this, I felt around to make sure it was all the same thickness and then fixed any areas that were a little bit thicker. You could cut a perfect circle if you wanted, but I wasn't trying to be precise, so just went with a general circular shape. Next, it's time to make the mold. You can use whatever you have around. I ended up opting for a Yoplait yogurt container since it already has that cone shape that I'm looking for. Then, to get the nice round and smooth top, I just crumpled some packing paper into a ball. I added more until it was the size that I wanted, and then used masking tape to smooth it out. Full disclosure, prior to this one, I had actually tried with bubble wrap, but it had some pokey corners to it, so I realized having a nice smooth surface was very important. So once I had my ball, I attached it to the container. Now with my ghost mold ready, I draped the clay over the mold. This was the trickiest part because I wanted to make it as even as possible, so you'll see me adjusting it several times until I was happy with it. Next, I added the wavy pattern along the side, adding the pleats where I felt like it needed them. Again, I wasn't trying to make it precise, so some were larger than others. Then it's just a matter of smoothing everything out. I dipped my finger in the water, just a little bit at a time. I've heard mixed things about using water for air dry clay, but I ended up treating it like normal ceramics and it worked out fine. I went between each pleat and along the bottom edge to remove all of the bumps and fingerprints and filled in any of the cracks. Once everything was smooth, I used the pointed tool to mark where I wanted the eyes. Then cut them out and dipped a brush in the water and smoothed and shaped them. For the bow, I used the pieces that I had removed from the eyes to shape them into a bow shape, then used the scoring tool to add score marks and wet it, and then added the centerpiece. Doing this scoring process helps the clay pieces stick together. I then dipped the brush into the water again to help smooth it all out. To attach the bow, I scored it and added water to both the bow and where I was attaching it to. I angled the edges up for a bit of dimension and then let it all dry for about 3 days as the instructions say to do. After those 3 days, to remove the mold, I carefully and slowly wiggled the yogurt container out. This is a reenactment as I did not trust myself to not break it while also trying to film. Then I used the sanding block and some water to smooth out any edges and also shorten some of the edges to help it sit more upright. You want to use water to wet sand so that you don't breathe in any of the clay particles. Once it was all smooth and sat how I wanted, I used the provided white paint to cover the outside of the ghost, except for the bow. I ended up doing 2 coats and made sure to go into the eyes and along the edge. Then I used a dry brush to cover it in shimmer powder to give it more of a ghostly sheen. Let me know in the comments whether or not you like the shimmer. Then to paint the bow, I used acrylic paint pens. My personal favorite combo for pretty much anything is pink and black, so that's what I went with. Pink for the outside of the bow and black for the center. As some of you know, I have a very shaky hand, so of course I ended up getting some pen on the ghost, but I just went back in with the white paint and the shimmer, and then also ended up adding shimmer to the bow itself, so it worked out fine. To seal it all in and prevent the shimmer from going everywhere when you touch it, I covered it in the provided matte varnish. Now, all that's left to do is to add some fairy lights. One option is to glue them to the inside, but it works just as well to just tuck the lights underneath. I'm so pleased with how this came out. I personally love the little bow detail, but I'd love to see what other accessories would you use for a little clay ghost. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hype it so that others will be able to find me. It really does help my channel. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, to see what I'm crafting day to day, be sure to follow me across my socials.